Hello, everyone, and yes, we are back with the Road to Masters, now in double digits in parts. And yes, you are seeing this right, consecutive uploads back again, and I got some good news. Um, Everything that you are seeing, well, with the exception of this race was a couple of days before the league race that you saw yesterday, but obviously one race is not enough for a Road to Masters episode. So after this race, everything that you will see for the rest of the Road to Masters series would be filmed the day that the last league race, the Miami race, happened. And yeah, we were getting a lot of lobbies that Sunday night. So yeah, we're going to be able to plow through the rest of these episodes. The Road to Masters series will be will be concluding probably this week. So yeah, back at it again with consistent uploads. Finally had a decent day to be able to get some footage and was able to find some lobbies more consistently than I have ever been able to since this game came out. And as you can see here, we are on Canada, a track that I believe, if we've done it all, I've only done one time. And in the top left, you can see we are pole right now, but we have a bad wall of champion chicane, and we fall down to P2, heading up to the line. P2 is where it's going to be at for us. And yeah, that's fine by me because it was a solid lap enough. I mean, Wall of Champion chicane was bad, but the rest of the lap was okay. Solid, consistent, putting ourselves in contention for a good finish is really all that matters and what I've been preaching the whole time. Not going to beat a dead horse with that stuff. You guys have seen it. And a decent sized lobby here, as you can see, 11 people. I don't remember for sure if it was 11 people by the time the race actually started. But big grids equals big opportunities to gain points, gain SR, even though you can't see your SR rating, which is still something that I'm complaining about in this year's game. And yeah, hopefully we can get a good start off the grid, lead in the turn one, and have this be one of those races that takes up about 12 seconds of time in this video. Like I always say, boring for you guys, but a relief for me when I don't get absolutely punted at the beginning of a race. Yep, and now we have to wait patiently for all these other players to load in and or adjust their setup for the race. Speaking of adjusting setup, that's something I'll be getting into probably later this video, if not the next video for sure. And as the excuse my English, 5 red lights are coming on. It's a random catchphrase as we launch and we are underway. Big wheel spin for the pole sitter. And like I just said, we are now immediately into the lead of this race, and hopefully we'll be able to bring this one home nice and easy. And absolutely no, that's not going to happen, because other humans exist in this lobby. And like I always say, our biggest enemy is not the game, is not our own skill. It is dealing with other humans. I outbreak myself there, so I Vettel my way. Except I leave room on the outside. Still, he shouldn't have got that penalty in 2019. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. And now we play the game of just holding on to as many positions as possible with heavy wing damage. And lucky for us, in the most recent patch of the game, wing damage affects your car more. You know, that patch came out just in time for that guy to just skip the first 2 corners of the race and slam into the fucking leader. You know, do I even need to go into it at this point of how dumb that is? Both in terms of skill and just race etiquette, just to skip 2 corners and slam into the leader. Like, I genuinely want to know what his own reaction was. He probably didn't give 2 shits. Very annoying. Our race is already ruined at no fault of our own after we had a pretty solid qualifying and an amazing grid start. We were on to lead this race and go on to win with absolutely no problem, and we get absolutely beamed. Now do we get beamed again? No. Improvement already from the previous lap. Now I have to spend the rest of this race adjusting my driving style to the damage my car has, which was orange front right wing, which is very annoying to say the least. Going to be down on a lot of pace. And I also have to try to defend as well as possible from the cars behind. Already 3 DNFs in this race, and yeah, this was going to be a big opportunity for us to gain some big points. But we should still be able to be positive, you know, gain SR out of this race. But like I said, it's still frustrating when you can pick up a win in an 11-person lobby and now you're just trying to scrape away points. And now we're going to get hit in the ass by this guy. You gotta love it. Every single human that gets near us, always making contact with us. Extremely annoying, extremely frustrating, is what it is. But for now, we hold on to P2, and I'm really hoping that these guys behind fight each other super hard. I mean, maybe they can cause collisions with each other. We have a terrible wall of champion chicane. Get a warning as well. And now we're going to lose the spot to that guy who already has his ERS light blinking after 2 laps. Great ERS management by him. Definitely not being sarcastic there. And yeah, now we find ourselves, frustratingly enough, in P3 of this race with P4 directly behind us, right up our chuff. We're not going to have any room to breathe really this whole race, but I'm hoping that the cars ahead can either make a big mistake in terms of getting damage, getting a penalty, something. You know, I'll take anything at this point. Like I always say, you know, never give up. Always stick with it, because anything can change in a moment's notice, as you've seen many times in this Road to Masters so far. Whether it's for better or for worse, a lot of these races change at a moment's notice. Sometimes we gain some position, sometimes we lose. And like right here, in a moment's notice, you could just get hit in the ass by another car, and then he still overtakes you and takes the position, which is just, on another note, that is just awful race etiquette. If you're going to bump someone like that and make them slide and then still pass them and then still hold the position, you're just a fucking asshole. You know, there's no way to be nice about it. And you guys probably already know this is not really a E-rated YouTube video anyhow, so excuse the language. But yeah, it's really frustrating where so far in this race, we gained the lead and lost 3 positions. All 3 positions we lost because the person behind us hits us. So, you know, I understand I have damage and I'm not the fastest. We clipped the wall again, so now we have a red front wing. But, like, I have red front wing damage. Well, it was orange. Can't you guys just, like, pass me normally? You know, it's not difficult. These people are so impatient that they literally can't wait for the DRS section that is coming literally less than 100 yards down the road to be able to pass me easily. No, instead they gotta bump me in the ass on this corner, probably give themselves a little bit of damage, and also stunt their run down to the line and lose time, down to the World Championship chicane, and lose time while overtaking me instead of just gaining time out of overtaking me because I don't have a chance to fight them if they just have a great run on the DRS straight, you know? And that's another thing strategically in these races you probably see me do a lot. Maybe I could dive bomb someone on a corner, but why would I do that when I can just wait 2 more corners and be able to overtake them in a way that I actually gain time in the race, because they can't put up resistance at all when I'm flying by them on a DRS straight, and I just profit off the game's speed from their slipstream, and I don't lose any time at all around the corners fighting them. But hey, this is, I guess, the fundamentals of racing, I guess, is all that it takes mentally to be a Masters level driver. I mean, that's just the world we're in, I guess, in all racing games. It's not like it just here in the F1 games either. You know, I had the same thing in Gran Turismo Sport. Got the S rank really quickly just by being fucking competent. You know, you don't got to do much here. But yeah, we are really hoping that maybe we can gain a position here in this race. I don't recall if I checked if the cars ahead have penalties at all. But yeah, 4th out of 11 isn't terrible, but at the same time, it's more about the what could have been, and it's not even the fact that I got 4th, it's that I got 4th because I was hit 3 different times. You know, that's just very frustrating to say the least. The guys are going to go side by side through the World Championship chicane ahead, but they're not going to hold each other up enough for me to have a chance. And yeah, it's just really frustrating seeing a bunch of people that I shouldn't be losing to them. They get a little bit of my points, and they get them via just hitting me and being fucking assholes. But we'll be coming back in the next race with a vengeance, don't you worry. And speaking of the next race, like I said, that previous race at Canada was before the league race video that you guys will have seen yesterday. And now this is Sunday night. I already did my league race, had dinner afterwards, and I was able to find a ranked lobby, and this would be the lobby that I would roll with all night long, baby. And you will see it's an absolute banger. If you think the series has been any bit entertaining so far, then you haven't seen fucking nothing yet, folks, because now we are in we are in the mix of it. And as you can see, this is not a great lap so far, making some minor mistakes. It's a clean lap. It is not a horrible lap. But as you can see in the top left, in terms of pace right now, we are P3, which shows, you know, all the other lobbies, you put in a clean lap, you are second or first every day of the week. So the fact that we're P3 right there, that just shows that we are finally in a lobby with some freaking pace. And we're actually going to have to execute, not just in a way where it's like, blah, 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 I'm fucking confident, and then whether I get hit or not decides whether I win. No, I'm actually going to have to use some driving skill here to be able to get some good points in this lobby. And third is particularly not great. Even second, you know, second's one thing at Canada when it was out of 11 people, but you're going to see it's only out of 6 guys here in this qualifying session. So a lot less points on the table, so finishing further up in the grid is even more important in those lobbies. But yeah, P2, and I'm going to wait here so you guys can see the driver, because like I said, a lot of these people will be sticking around through the rest of the night. And our boy Drax, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, got pole position. We ended up becoming friends here at the end of the night, you know, chatting a little bit after the races. And he was our rival turned friend here tonight, because you're going to see us go at it a lot here in the next few races. And we are now getting ready for this race to start. Unfortunately, no one joined during qualifying, so it's just us, classic Gran Turismo, 6-person grid. And as the lights have come on and now gone off with a random catchphrase as we launch, we get a great start. Once again, we're going to be able to get just ahead of Drax here. So if you ever see that same livery of me with the slick gold and black design, that is Drax. He's going to be our main rival here in this lobby for the next quite few races in this series. And we get a good launch. We're going to use ERS to make sure we preserve this position. And right away, I could sense heavy understeer. And that's going to bring up a topic that I've kind of touched on, but not in the detail that I'm about to. And that is setup. So the first time I got Masters in the F1 ranked games was in 2019. I started playing the modern F1 games in, I think it was February of 2019. So it was the 2018 game. But about halfway through, maybe like a third of the way through the F1 2019 game is when I first went up the ranks and became Master Rank. And I did so without setups. But then once I started league racing in 2019 and late April of 2020, I guess it would have been, late in the 2019 game's lifespan, I had gotten setups for all of the tracks, and I realized, whoa, the big difference. So in 2020, 2021, and now in this game, I've had my setups on my car by the time I start playing ranked play, because it just feels much better and obviously gives you free pace to be gained on the table. But with the recent update, I had said about how the setup has slightly changed because tire temperatures and such are more sensitive. And a big thing, and I believe I touched on this even more in the league race yesterday, is that setups have changed a lot in terms of what is optimal for a one-lap setup versus a race setup. And the way I go about my setups is that, you know, I just get them and I practice them and I tweak them a little bit in time trial. But it's not until I have a league race on a track that I really go in depth with my setups, you know, really testing heavy fuel and light fuel, you know. When I have a league race at a track, I really go all out. So tracks that I've already league raced on in this year's game, you know, my setups are good for both race and qualifying. But some of these setups, I mean, going into these races, I've been lowering tire pressures because I know that tires will pretty much always overheat on every track if you don't do that in the new patch. But I didn't realize how much of a difference, you know, your setup has to be on some of these tracks. And right here is an example. And as you can see, the driver behind Drax, he had made a little bit of a mistake in this race, so that did give us some good breathing room. But still, I'm going to continue talking about this because it is very important, where you really got to test now more than ever in like the last 4 games of F1. You really got to make sure your setup is not just good in one-lap pace, but it's also good in race fuel as well, because some setups that have a big disparity between the ride heights, like for example this one does, where I am very high on the front but very low on the rear, I was actually bottoming out sometimes going into the corner. Bottoming out in the straights a little bit is fine, but if you're bottoming out in the corner, you're going to have a really bad time. You don't want that to happen. And also, struggling with tire temperatures. I was very aggressive with the camber and toe settings on all my setups, And on some tracks, you got to tweak that down a little bit on race fuel levels, race pace, however you want to word it. And also tire pressures. I knew I had to lower them some, and that was a thing that I've dealt with in F1 2021, but not near to the extent of this game. Maybe in F1 21, it was like, oh, I run max tire pressures on this track. Well, I'll lower it 2 or 3 clicks, and then it's good for race pace as well. But that is not the case in this game. On a vast majority of the tracks, you will have to run minimal or near minimal tire pressures on race pace, or else with any kind of setup, you are going to overheat the tires. So yeah, to sum it up, setups really became an issue for me in these lobbies, and it has become really prevalent now because I'm actually racing with other high-level drivers that have what it takes to be in Masters and probably do league racing on their own. So if they have already league raced at a track and have a good race setup and I don't, they're going to have a big advantage. And also vice versa. If my setup's good for the race and maybe theirs isn't as much, and maybe it's a track I've practiced more, then I'll have the advantage, because setup does make a difference, but it's not totally necessary. Like, I would say the difference between a default setup and a setup on most tracks is probably like a second to a second and a half, or maybe even 2 seconds, depending on the track, right? And maybe the difference between different styles of setups, like maybe one is a little bit more downforce, a little bit less, a little bit more camber, a little bit stiffer or something, things that are more driver preference. Maybe those have a difference of a tenth or two. But regardless of what your setup is or your driving style, if you're struggling with tire temperatures, the difference is well over a second a lap. So literally at this pace, I would rather have a default setup that doesn't overheat than have a good setup that is overheating the tires like this one is. It's a very big difference. So yeah, again, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to test your setups on race pace. And like me, I haven't been doing that. Like I said, I've only done it for the tracks that I league race in. Other than that, I've just done league racing and ranked play. That's basically all I've done. Other than that, just been practicing time trial and such. So the way I would recommend it for you is just kind of keep track of how much you're lowering your tire pressures and such for races when you play ranked play, and just jot it down on your phone. Like, hey, in Brazil, I went from full to half and it still wasn't enough. Do it more, little things like that. And it'll make a gigantic difference. I got lucky in this race because Drax had made a mistake, but as you can see, they're not always going to be making mistakes behind me, and there is going to be multiple people joining into this lobby that have got the kind of pace that me and Drax do, that kind of league race level of play. So yeah, we're going to have to be on our absolute A game if we want to keep finishing first place in this lobby. And heading into the next race, it tried to rejoin me in the lobby after that race. And you can see here, again, what I was just preaching, lowering my tire pressures here for Spain. And I was trying to find a new lobby because there wasn't 6 people, and I was following my policy. And then eventually I found this lobby again. While they were qualifying, there was 6 people, including myself, so I joined. But one of the drivers left between qualifying and the race, so I was already in at this point for the race, and so that's kind of how it happened. So yeah, just trying to follow my rules of, hey, there's not 6 people, I'm leaving, and I end up joining the same lobby. There was 6 people, so shit, I'm in the same exact lobby at the end, but I just missed qualifying in this one, which is a little inconvenient. But like I said, I'm sticking to my rules that I made no matter what. It has to be at least 6 people. And if I find a lobby with at least 6 people, even if they're already qualifying, I'm readying up. So yeah, good launch off the line, up to P4 now. And yeah, I know I have good pace at Spain. This has historically been in all F1 games, including at league racing, just a track I always seem to do very well at. So hopefully going to keep that momentum here. Already gaining positions, but not a lot of room to work with. All the cars are very tight. We're going to be able to get this overtake done. Not quite the room to make the overtake on the red and white car ahead. And that livery always gives me vibes of the old McLaren livery from the 90s. I don't know about you guys, but yeah. Yeah, a little bit of a throwback to when I was playing the PS1 F1 games. But anyhow, back on topic. P3 on the first lap. And I know I got some pace to work with. And yeah, again, this is the track that I will be league racing on here next week, so I will be going in more on my setup on this track, but at this point I had it, so we will see. Will the setup become an issue on this track as well? I know one thing for sure, I am way faster in the corners, but the car ahead has a gigantic advantage over me on the straight. Even though I'm using ERS in his slipstream, he is still pulling away from me. So I'm going to have to find a way to make the overtake done in the corners here at Spain, and hopefully do it early enough in the lap that he doesn't just re-overtake me once the DRS gets activated next lap as well. And as we advance to the end of lap 2, I'm right on his chuff. He takes a pretty poor line through here again like he did in the first lap. Not really room to overtake there. Right on him this time. I'm going to burn all the meter necessary in his slipstream to make sure that I can secure this overtake. And yeah, I had a big advantage on him through the corners, but like I said, he has an advantage down the straight. But if you're right up someone's gearbox like that and burning meter the whole way down the straight, you're still going to be able to get the move done. And now, our boy Drax, he qualified pole position in our absence of qualifying. We are trying to find a decent-sized lobby. And yeah, we will see if we can run him down in the remaining 3 laps here at Spain. Advancing forward to lap 4 now, you can see I am checking my tire pressures because I was starting to tell that things were feeling slightly off in some corners. You can see getting up to that 220 mark, that's where the tires are starting to overheat. 219 and lower, you're good. 220 and above, not good. Not going to have a good time. And you can see at some sections of the lap, I am starting to overheat my tires. And again, going back to that conversation before, maybe I didn't notice it as much before when I was in lower level lobbies because I would get out front and kind of like not really push things, which is why you never really saw me make mistakes when I was up front, even though it's a track that we haven't really raced yet, because I get in front and just do enough to maintain the gap. So I probably wasn't noticing the setup issues before, but now it's becoming really prevalent now that we are racing with other high-level drivers and making that final push to the Road to Masters. But yeah, it doesn't seem like I'm overheating that much, but every millisecond that they are above, we are losing grip and potential speed around corners drastically, and that is going to be the big bane for us in these last few races, really trying to get the setup right. And it just adds another layer of strategy. You know, how much do I tone down the setup to compensate for temperatures, you know, all while battling other high-level drivers. Just like I said, adding another layer to the strategy, which was actually quite enjoyable now looking back at it. And after we come across the line in P2, we're going to skip forward, skip forward. And yeah, unfortunately, I skipped through us being awarded a gold 3. So I was kind of mad at myself for that. I want to see it tick up to the new rank, you know, make more of a scene about it. But yeah, unfortunately, I was an idiot in this one, so less dramatic of an ending, I guess you could say. But yes, now we are gold 3. We are as high as we're going to get without completing the challenge. There is only one more time that we will rank up in this series, and that is when we finally tick over into Masters.